Story of a British property developer who was arrested in Dubai during the global financial crash and who has been in prison ever since. Ryan Cornelius won't be released until 2038, when he'll be 84 years old. His family and the United Nations are calling for his urgent release. His brother-in-law, Chris Paget, joined me in the studio.
It's pretty basic. It's always very, very cold. The air conditioning is kept on full blast. He doesn't have a blanket or anything like that, so the problem is actually cold. The diet is very rudimentary. Conditions are insanitary. I mean, he's had tuberculosis through exposure to an infected prisoner, which they didn't treat for 18 months. He's had COVID twice. He suffers cumulative ailments. When you've been in prison for 16 and a half years, your health will deteriorate, and his has, and we are concerned about that.
The UAE claimed that Ryan was convicted after a fair trial.
Well, I guess they would say that, wouldn't they? But all I can say is that the UN doesn't think so. The UN catalogued in great detail the sort of legal contortions which they went through in order to convict him, essentially for failure to pay a debt which the Dubai Islamic Bank had made damn sure that he wouldn't ever be in a position to pay. The Dubai Islamic Bank foreclosed on his loan, even though he was ahead of the agreed repayment schedule. They put him in solitary confinement. While he was in solitary confinement and unable to communicate with the outside world, they foreclosed on the loan and they took what they were after, the big property development in central Dubai called the Plantation. That was what they wanted. Having taken it, at his subsequent trial, they claimed that the Plantation was worthless. The Plantation was a major sort of residential and leisure estate complex.
What they're saying is that he illegally obtained a loan of £372 million by bribing staff members.
No, that's not true.
At the bank.
That is not true. Everything that he did at the instructions of his lender. Dubai was a rather complicated place at the time. He was doing business as his lender had instructed him to do. There was a change of chairman in between the time in which he signed a restructuring agreement and when he was imprisoned. But I think he became a sitting duck the moment that he agreed, as part of the restructuring agreement, to pledge all his commercial projects and his personal assets as security for the loan. The Plantation was valued independently for collateral purposes at over $1 billion. That was well more than twice the value of his loan. They took the Plantation. They claimed it was valueless. It is now being advertised, renamed as the Acres, as Dubai's latest prestige property development, with a plan that comprises 1,200 villas, the cheapest of which retails for over £1 million. Somebody has done very well out of a shakedown.
What are you hoping happens now? What do you want the government to do? Because you contacted Sir Keir Starmer ahead of his visit to UAE. What are you hoping to happen, and what sort of contact have you had from the government in terms of possible help?
Well, for most of the 16.5 years Ryan has been in prison, there's been none. Now, Ryan's case is obviously a problem for the British Foreign Office. It has for decades touted the closeness of its relationship with the UAE as a kind of jewel in its diplomatic crown in the Middle East. And there you have prominent members of Dubai's hierarchy subjecting a British businessman to utter callous brutality, destroying him, destroying his family in the process. What do you do about that? Their posture for most of his 16 years has been to pretend that the problem doesn't exist, to look the other way, not to acknowledge it. It was only when the UN made its ruling that they finally got round to acknowledging it and then agreeing grudgingly to support a private family plea for clemency. They have not done what the UN has done, which is to call for Ryan's immediate release. Now, when Ryan heard that Sir Keir Starmer was visiting the UAE, he dictated a an appeal to Keir Starmer from the prison telephone to me. I was able to ensure that it got to number 10 ahead of Keir Starmer's visit. Now, Keir Starmer chose not to heed that appeal.